Prejudice of race or age or religion. I think this is a blessing.
Yes. So how long have you lived in Mountain View? You live
We
here?
came here 15 years ago.
15 years ago.
15 years ago. It
Okay.
seems to have passed quickly.
Yeah.
And I sort of was afraid. Our kids live here and grandchildren
Yes.
in the States. I was afraid because I've never lived in a sort of, I don't want to insult Mountain View, but I've always lived in big cities.
I see, right.
But it turned out fantastic.
Yes.
You know,
It's a
I
small-
immediately
Yes.
went to investigate what was available.
Uh-huh.
And I took courses. I took a course to teach art in public schools as a volunteer.
Did you?
And I had a period where I taught myself how to be an American, the way I want to be.
I see.
So I learned about the Native Americans in Santa Fe, and I learned about the Quakers, and I just taught myself because
Yes.
I know Mountain View is not America.
Uh-huh.
And you have to have an overview of the country. It's a fabulous country.
Right, right.
And, you know, it's very difficult because it's so huge. It's like learning
Yes.
what a continent is.
Right. And where were you coming from when you came to the U.S.? Where would
I came from Israel.
You were from Israel.
But-
Okay.
Yes, but we had lived in many countries in
different-
between.
Right.
Because my husband was sent on his work, and I always worked in, you know.
Yes. You're doing work. You do some work at the Hoover Institution. Is that correct?
I'm a volunteer,
Volunteer.
and I collect archives for them
Okay.
about Jews in China and Japan.
Yes.
Because so many people write me about my books.
Right.
And if they're older,
Yes.
I say, look, if you have anything,
Yes.
give it to the Hoover. Your kids will just throw it into the garbage if they're not interested.
I see.
And it's amazing the
Okay.
amount of material we got.
Okay. The Hoover Institution, is there a website for that? I mean, how could people contact you there if they want to donate something? Is there,
You know, they could contact me.
Okay.
You have my email.
Right.
And they could contact me. I'm in contact with them all the time.
Okay.
I'm not trying to get away from the question, but I don't remember
okay.
their email.
Okay, but are you still volunteering there at
Yes,
Hoover? Okay, so
this
you're,
is a
you're
permanent
actively
thing.
involved at
Yes.
Stanford University, Hoover Institution?
No, Hoover Institution is separate from Stanford.
Okay, okay.
It's at Stanford.
It's at Stanford?
Yes.
Okay, on the campus.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on the campus, and they have a connection, of
Terrific.
course.
There's another question I want to ask you about is the Jews in China, Kai Feng.
Yes.
What can you tell me about that? That's actually quite fascinating.
This is the book that's coming out now.
Oh, okay.
You know.
You've got the new
now,
book.
It is basically a group of Jews that came in the 12th century.
12th century.
A caravan to Kaifeng, which is 200 kilometers away from Beijing,
Okay.
if you know, and which was the capital of China at the time. And they settled down. The emperor told them that they would be free to practice their religion or do whatever they want.
Yes.
And they were called Hui Hui. They wore blue skull caps.
I see.
And they were Muslims who wore white skull caps. So, of
see.
course, many Chinese couldn't tell the difference.
Yes.
And they ended up by building a gorgeous synagogue that doesn't exist anymore.
Oh.
And most of the people who wrote about them were Christian missionaries, Catholics.
I see.
And there's a lot of material about them in Rome.
I see. Matteo Ricci.
Yes.
Did he write about them? He came
Matteo
after?
Ricci had the first encounter with a Jewish person from Kaifeng.
I see.
He went to Beijing to hold some sort of exams, official exams,
Yes.
and he heard that there was somebody who believed in one God,
Yes.
and he thought it was a Jew. Matteo Ricci heard somebody came who believed in one God, and he thought was a Christian. So it ended up by Ricci taking him to the chapel, and the Jew being surprised seeing so many paintings of people because it's forbidden according to Jewish law.
Oh,
And when they sat together and talked, each one discovered to his shock that they were of two different religions. And then Matteo Ricci wrote Rome, which took 3 months to reach it,
Right.
and they started sending people because they were hoping that they would have very old scrolls and everything that might tell more about Christ and Christianity and so
I see.
on. So,
Well, and Matteo Ricci, if you clarify, was a Jesuit scholar who came from Rome, from Italy.
Yes.
And he was there, I don't know what the
Yes.
year was.
the interesting thing is that he was very smart.
Yes.
He learned,
Learn Chinese.
I don't know how many dialects.
Yes.
Lots of dialects.
Yes.
And he really liked the Chinese people.
Yes.
And he taught them science at the time.
Yeah.
And he was very loyal to the Chinese. So it was a very interesting development. And he was very smart because he brought clocks.
Yes.
And he was the only one who could fix them. So they were scared to kick him out.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's interesting. That's fascinating. You obviously have a lot of understanding of what goes on in China. We're kind of running out of time here, about 2 minutes left. Is there anything else, I mean, that you want to just kind of talk about that you feel that's important in this discussion?
Well, I just want to say really that I feel that a lot of boundaries between people are very artificial.
Yes.
And that we really don't understand each other's cultures.
Yeah.
The worst thing is that not to understand a person's cultures. The cultures are very different.
Mm-hmm.
The Japanese have a very different cultures. The Muslims have a very different cultures. Mm-hmm. And you can be very insulting without wanting to if you're not careful.
Yes.
So I think that when people travel, they should observe before they express opinions and before they make quick decisions.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
the only thing.
And you've seen, this is your work. Your new book is coming. When is that? You just got the contract?
I just got the contract, sent in the manuscript.
Okay.
And the publisher said it's wonderful. So I'm very excited. But of course, they may change their mind when they send.
And what is this going to be about? What is
this is about two boys. It's a story.
Okay.
One of them is a Jewish boy in Kaifeng.
Yes.
And one of them is the emperor's son, who is given 3 days to observe the city. But the exciting thing is that all the action happens around the scroll, which is a Chinese national treasure.
Yes.
It's a 12th century scroll, and the boys move along this scroll, which exists.
I see.
And then they teach each other different things, and all the customs and history are correct.
Yes.
You know, I wrote it with Yang Feng too, with this Chinese author.
Okay.
So we did a lot of research.
Yes.
But the story is a very exciting story. So every chapter ends with suspense.
Yes. Okay. And that's coming out. Do you have an idea?
I don't know.
You have an idea?
They
okay.
said they hope next year, but
okay.
you know.
Well, we'll be looking for it. We're out of time, and I have to wrap this up.
Thank
and
you.
Yes, I want to thank my guest, Rena Krasno, for coming on. And I want to thank my crew, a wonderful crew, for helping out. Otherwise, you wouldn't see this show. And please, you should know that public access television is facing a budget crunch. We'd really appreciate if you could donate. Call the station, make a donation, and keep public access going, the voice of the community. Thanks very much. We'll see you soon.